I'm Gary Isaacs on the Ike Pickett Show with a 5-minute message to President Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the Department of Government Efficiency. The feds are control freaks, paying no attention to the constitutional provision of the 10th Amendment that states, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people." Before the forming of the Environmental Protection Agency by the federal government, there were several states that were addressing the problem of air pollution without federal involvement. The takeover by the feds began when the United States Congress passed the Air Pollution Control Act of 1955. 8 years later came the Clean Air Act of 1963. The Environmental Protection Agency was formed in 1970 by the executive order of Richard Nixon. The order was ratified by Congress and began to be enforced immediately. The Clean Air Act of 1990 was created to address what had become known as global warming through ozone depletion and to introduce a regulatory policy called Best Available Control Technology, or BACT. BACT sounded like an open door to me. In my misunderstanding of the EPA, created by a public-private partnership that was really crony capitalism, I thought that all I had to do was show them that under the new BACT rule, my system was the best and that surely my simple process for effective emissions control would have to be accepted as the best available. I was such a fool. It was a hard lesson. I expected to overcome corporate special interests and political correctness by practicality. After all, people are honest and they have to recognize reality and the truth, right? I was never more wrong. It was not just a giant, it was a windmill blowing against the truth, and I was Don Quixote. I soon had to face reality for myself. When a new technology is so invasive that it will require the loss of jobs and political acceptance on a wide scale, and it will cost only a fraction of Keynesian spending, truth be damned. Human nature dictates that this is war and all is fair, even if it requires lying and deception to protect jobs and the government elect. Protect the company and the government, or you'll be left in poverty without a position. In other words, compromise your moral principles for money, status, and social acceptance. Lying and deception are part of the job. After several attempts and disappointments, I learned the hard way that BACT was no friend of my new technology. Technology that is invasive to corporations like Siemens, Monsanto, and Wheelabrator, with their riches and political influence, is treated by them with ignorance and is subsequently dead on arrival. If I sound cynical, it's because I am. The experts of the world are not friendly to innovation when it appears to be a threat to their jobs, their perceived expertise, and the protection of their importance. They can't afford to think outside the box. It's human nature to stay in the box that was created by their institutional indoctrination and need for social acceptance. I'm Gary Isaacs. Thanks for being with me today on the Ike Pickett Show. Open my website, myintegritypath.com. Knowledge is power. Read my book, Standing Up to the Coup, and you can listen to my book, Searching for Bitcoin, by audio. Keep in mind who you are and why you are here, and sleep peacefully at night knowing that your integrity and your savings are not controlled by a public-private partnership, but are in your own private custody.
There's an old American system, it's called free enterprise. We have a tendency to forget when the do-gooders start to rise. When the dollar gets weak and prices are high and they give us their socialist salve. If the government can give you all you want, it can take everything you have.